watching the progressive meltdown, you see, here's how it works. Here's how it's all spinning out. You see, what's been going on is that over there on X, Elon Musk is sick of progressive bullshit. He seems to not like them very much. I don't blame him because progressives are the most annoying people on planet Earth. But you see, progressives are very upset because they're used to doing their crybaby bullshit where they fall on the ground and they kick and they scream and they shout and screech at the top of their lungs, and then some moderator comes and bans you on their behalf. Oh my God, no, he misgendered me. He misgendered me. Ah! Musk said, nah, fuck that. And so what's happening is the progressives actually have to tangle with other people's ideas. And as it turns out, they're really fucking terrible at doing that. Why? Is it because they're stupid? Yes. Is it because they're insane? Also yes. Is it because they're idiots? Absolutely. But the other reason is because what they're used to doing is mobilizing their audiences in order to just go and get the opposition banned. That's what they do. But they can't do it over on X. They can't do that. And they don't know exactly what to do with that. Like, wait a second. Usually, when I kick and scream and throw a fit, some dumb progressive comes along and goes, oh, you poor thing. Oh, you poor. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, did he say a mean thing to you? We're going to go ban him right away. There you go. Here's your little Snuggie and your baby Baba. There you go. Well, that's not happening now. And if you want to know why progressives seem like they're melting down all over the internet, that's why. Because they can't seem to censor the opposition like they used to be able to. And so they actually have to engage with them. And it turns out that they become the laughingstock of the world. Because they're quite stupid. The tactics no longer work the second that the platform, TOS, changes. The tactics don't work anymore. So now we get to watch as Destiny melts down on Piers Morgan. We get to watch as Not So Erudite melts down about Destiny's meltdowns. We get to watch as the orbiters of Not So Erudite melt down about her melting down about Destiny's meltdowns. Oh, Master. Please, Master. Calm down, Master. Our livelihood depends on it, Master. As we saw from Wick the other day. So we're going to dive into this. We're going to watch these multitudes of meltdowns going on all across the internet. All of them are hilarious. All of them are fucking funny. I could just watch this for weeks on end and never get bored of it.
Deranged young lunatic with an impressionable mind. Who the hell knows what that kind of language? We don't know yet. Right, about any of the motivation. Apparently there's a kind of very, very strange, again, a very strange lack of information that they've been able to find out about this young shooter.
Piers, of course, but you also have to understand that there has been an entire media machine, mainstream media machine and Democrat elite that for years, since before Donald Trump was president, have been calling him Hitler and his supporters Nazis. What would someone do if they truly believe that? I'm not directly linking this to Biden.
Okay, so this is actually a good point. If your rhetoric is to tell people that if they are to do something which is violent, they're actually stopping a rehash of World War II, of course lunatics are going to act on that. So Ruben's point here is well taken. Coach Nato for $10 says a child could have walked on that roof in Crocs. Yeah, well, I mean,
Biden's bullseye comment, as irresponsible as it may be, or anyone else's specific comment. But over time in culture, if things get normalized, and yes, this man is going to put us in camps, and you can turn on MSNBC on any given day, and they're talking about how they're all going to be arrested and taken off the air, and what he's going to do to minorities and gays and everything else, all utter complete nonsense. At some point, people might get a subtle message and then do something crazy. Again, we don't know if that was what happened.
No shit. Of course yeah, of course.
Let me bring in Destiny, because you've been at the center, as you know, of a massive online response to what you were saying, and I want to go through what you said, and I want to talk to you about this hopefully in a calm manner to try and understand.
You can see the shit-eating grin as Destiny knows he's about to have to defend the indefensible. However, because this is a more mainstream cable-style network that he's on, his typified Socratic method or the spurging method when he gets called out or caught red-handed isn't going to work. He's going to have to use concise rhetoric, and Destiny is not good at concise rhetoric and never has been, ever. It's immediate gish gallop, and if it's not a gish gallop, then he moves over to spurging. Those are the two modes of the Coomer Gremlin. Very rarely are any of the points concise and the rhetoric particularly sharp.
On Saturday evening, hours after the shooting, you said, let me clarify, when I say conflicted, what I mean is I lean towards seeing it as a natural extension of the thing Trump and the MAGA kids support. So I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt enough to chastise people celebrating it. You couldn't find it in your heart to chastise people for celebrating the near assassination of a man who was president of the United States and maybe again?
Absolutely not. Conservatives have completely bled that well dry. And the idea that they, after engaging in the most divisive and most extreme rhetoric that this country has seen in recent history, that they would come on and beg for sympathy, that it's escalated into some kind of violent confrontation is absolutely insane. Even the idea right now of saying, well, if you call somebody a Nazi for so long, it's, what do you expect people to do? I grew up listening to Rush Limbaugh call Obama a communist every single day he was on the
Was a fucking communist. Rush Limbaugh was right. Rush was right. Obama was a fucking communist. Absolutely. 100%. He was a commie.
Radio. You've got conservatives that talk about how the mRNA vaccines were ways to sneak microchips into us. You've got COVID lockdowns that were done because the government was trying to
Gish gallop, gish gallop.
take all your freedom away. They won't acknowledge anything that happened on January 6th. They say that the election was stolen and that your country is being taken from you. Like, I don't think anybody should be killed. I don't think anybody should go out and kill anybody. But when you engage in this type of rhetoric and when you turn the temperature up over and over and over and over again, there is absolutely no room for you to be shocked or surprised. And there certainly isn't room for you to ask for sympathy.
But you say, but Destiny, you say you don't want anybody.
So, we start with two forms of fallacious thought patterns. Though these are delivered in argument form, so I would consider them to be arguments. He's asked to defend the things that he says, so he gives his argument. His argument is, no, what I say is fine, because what about them over there? A very typical whataboutism. What about them over there? They bad too. Therefore, what I do which is bad is fine, because they bad over there as well. Then he moves into point 2, which is the justification for they bad over there too, which is here's all of the gish gallop of points which you'll never be able to address, rather than just going one point at a time, which he's incapable of doing. It's conservatives said this, and then they said that, and then they did this, and then they did that, and blah, 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 blah. It's a very, very typified whataboutism argument, followed by a gish gallop. Again, none of it is concise argumentation nor rhetoric.
He killed, and yet you say, I don't think I have much sympathy about the attempt to chastise people celebrating it. It's people celebrating the near assassination of Donald Trump. If you can't find it in you to chastise people who do that, aren't you just as despicable as the people you've just spent the last 2 minutes haranguing?
It's Piers going right for the hypocrisy. Because from Pierce's perspective, if you can point out that somebody's a hypocrite, then at least optically that's a massive win, which is true. From the political standpoint, if you can point out hypocrisy, it usually is a winning principle. People have a hard time defending against it. People associate hypocrisy with theft and nefarious, other nefarious things. They associate it with fraud, theft, everything in between. They consider hypocrites to be kind of in the same league as those other nefarious things. Whether they are or they aren't, that's how people perceive them to be. So from a political standpoint, it's very effective rhetoric. Matt Fleming for $5 says, I remember being called a Yahtzee and baby killer for the crime of supporting the troops in Iraq in 2004. The vile language always starts from the left. Well, they're sloganeers primarily. They're no good at arguing. They're good at sloganeering.
No, because they've led the way. This is the environment that they've created.
So you think behaving like the...
So once again, Destiny says, no, it's not hypocrisy. All I'm doing is operating within the frame of what's being presented here, which is that they over there bad, and I'm just doing same bad thing they do.
People you think are despicable is the correct course of action.
Not about behaving like the people who are despicable would be leading that type of rhetoric. It would be denying every single bad thing. How many times as a liberal? How many times as a liberal have you been on a show? Not you in general, but like a liberal been on a show and you've been forced to disavow all of the BLM riots, disavow all of the violence, and blah blah blah. And then you talk to conservatives about it. January 6th,
violence.
that was
That's
a false
good.
flag.
Yeah.
January 6th. Oh, like conservatives disavow January 6th?
Wait. First off, there's an entire cultural machine that has lied.
So now we get into the heart of it. So this is actually decent rhetoric, right, from Destiny. Again, now Destiny using the argument from hypocrisy, also fallacious argumentation, says, wait a second, though. You won't disavow X, Y, and Z, so why should I disavow this? It's actually embarrassing. Once you realize how improper the thinking patterns are of these people, it's fucking embarrassing that this is the best we get for collective representation left and right to argue about such a important issue of our time.
There is an entire
we just saw it in real time. That's it.
What?
That's why conservatives deserve absolutely zero sympathy for anything that happens as a result of their rhetoric. That's it. It's so easy. Like, it's so simple.
Okay, but
I'm not exactly sure what he's talking about, but I would say this is the type of person that the internet has broke their brain, thus leaving them with very little empathy for their co-human. I mean, a good, decent father is now dead because of this. He's had his brains blown out because he was defending his wife and daughter. I would hope that you have a little empathy for that.
Well,
That.
Let me jump in there because we have a clip of what Destiny has said about that very thing. Let's listen to this.
Fuck it. Fuck the dude, the firefighter guy. Fuck Trump. Fuck the people that support him. I just want you to know, okay? Just in case you're confused or it seems like I'm, whatever. If one of you were in the crowd and you're a conservative fan of mine and you end up, getting blown away or whatever the fuck, I'm making fun of you the next day on Twitter. I am 100%.
I mean,
what a sick fucking bastard. What a sick thing to say. In this case, though, to say that it's somewhat chilling to watch the meltdown of the Coomer Gremlin. I think he said these things kind of tongue-in-cheek, but then had to double down on them. And he's hoping that just kind of over enough time that people will forget. And likely he's correct, that over time people move on to other things and forget all about this, and this will be considered some other arc of destiny, right? Shane Emanuel for $7 says, Andrew, have you ever been asked on the Piers Morgan show? If not, make that happen, or someone's going to make it happen. I have not been asked to go on Piers Morgan. I'd be happy to do so, as I would absolutely crush these fucking panels that they have. Badly. Demetrius, thank you for the 10. It's very kind of you.
I got to say, I just found that repulsive, Destiny.
I wish that you...
Hey, who said I was a 2? I'm a 4, you fucker. I'm a 4. The actual bot for $5 says Destiny is a nihilist. See Destiny versus O'Connor. And yet he pearl clutches about moral consistencies. Wild. Well, nihilists can have moral standards which they self-impose and then hold you to those standards. There's nothing actually inconsistent about doing that. It's just that the standards would then self-admittedly have to just be, I made them the fuck up, right? And if it's, I made them the fuck up, then there's no particularly good reason for you to have to adhere to any of them. Rasul VR for $10 says, after comments like that and being banned on Kick and demonetized on Twitter, I don't understand why Destiny gained thousands of followers. Just makes no sense to me. What is wrong with these people? Well, always remember that many times people will follow you because they hate your guts. They're not always following you because they love what you have to say.
There is no room. There is no room for the hand wringing, and I will not participate in this anymore.
Oh, it's not hand wringing.
In the hand wringing. No, it absolutely is.
No, it's just that you are positioning yourself.
So well.
No, but when you are Destiny, let me explain to you.
Where conservatives can say anything.
No, I'm not a conservative.
They can have any conspiracy theory.
I'm not a conservative.
They can have
Now we get into the typical performative spurging. The Destiny performative spurging. Head back. I'll give you all of the Destiny kind of typified spurgs. First, head thrown back in laughter. That's spurg mode 1. As he leads into spurg mode 1, he usually begins with spurg mode 2, which is a lot of this. One hand or two hands. What I'm Then you have spurg mode 3, which is, of course, speed talking. Destiny's very good at combining all three of those spurg modes.
They can do any of these things, and then liberals are supposed to sit here and be like, "Oh my God, it's so tragic."
There's the speed
Absolutely
talking.
not.
Let me explain.
Absolutely.
Let me explain my position, because I'm not a conservative. I'm not on either side in your race, right? Here's what I think about what you did. You'd like to fire off, as you've done so far in this debate, about your fury at how disgusting Republicans are, how inhumane they are, how they never have any empathy, blah, 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 blah. And then you yourself actually are exactly the person that you're describing. You are inhuman. You are somebody who seems almost gleeful that a young firefighter with a family, with a wife and children, who he was protecting as he was shot dead, that he deserved what was coming to him because he went to a President Trump rally.
So, essentially, neither one of them are going to win this engagement. Both sides can walk away thinking that they've beaten the other side, and here's why. Because they're both using the same argument against each other. Morgan is fallaciously using an argument from hypocrisy, and Destiny is fallaciously using an argument from hypocrisy. Piers Morgan says, wait a second, as you say this, you're guilty of all the same things you're saying that the Republicans are guilty of, the other side is guilty of. Destiny says, yes, but I only have to do that because you created an environment in which these people could utilize this type of rhetoric to begin with, and you don't like the rhetoric, so you're the hypocrite. So they're both just calling each other hypocrites. And they're both right to a degree, so who gets the score here? Who gets the points?
Most gleeful, Destiny. I'm sorry, that makes you, frankly, despicable.
Reality is that conservatives have been turning the temperature up on the rhetoric. They have been making fun of these types of events for years, and now when something happens to them, now they're looking for sympathy from the liberal side. Absolutely not. It's insane. It's unhinged that you can conduct yourself in such a manner and expect people to feel sorry when things happen.
Why should anybody on the right listen to a word of your hectoring and lecturing about how they should behave? And by the way, for the record, the mockery of Nancy Pelosi's husband when he was attacked by an intruder with a hammer was also despicable, right? I can see despicable behavior on all sides, and I'm happy to...
So I'm not the hypocrite, you're the hypocrite. Destiny says, I'm not the hypocrite, you're the hypocrite. Both of these are very weak, rhetorically very weak. And ultimately, neither one is going to walk away with a clean W because of that. They're both using the same argument from a different perspective. It'd be far easier to dive into the worldview of Ott here and say, well, Ott people do this, and have Destiny say no, and then just ask him why he is. And then if he says, well, because the other side is doing it, yeah, but the other side ought not do that, right? Destiny says, yes. Well, then now you're in a corner. Now you're in a corner because now you're doing that which you yourself consider to be immoral.
My issue with the MAGA kids is not that they are not empathetic. My issue is that they support a president that led an insurrection against the United States. I'm not here to tone police over their empathy.
18 million people voted for Donald Trump last time around.
That's great. 80 million people voted for a guy that tried to insurrect the government, and it looks like they might try to do it again. I mean, like, I don't know what you want me to say. These are the facts on the ground. The idea that
you don't like attacks on democracy. So presumably you would unreservedly condemn the attempted assassination of Donald Trump, because that's one of the most egregious attacks on American democracy in modern times. Presumably,
I don't think that
you will take this opportunity, given you are so determined to protect the integrity of democracy, you would find it absolutely outrageous that someone has tried to assassinate a president, right?
If the other conservatives on this show want to say that it was absolutely outrageous that Donald Trump attempted to coup the government,
I'm asking
then maybe I would. Yeah, no.
Again, he's still right back to the argument to hypocrisy. Sure, all you have to do is disavow what happened here, and then I'll disavow this. Otherwise, you aren't consistent. However, that doesn't mean he's being consistent with his framework either. So essentially, all that we've established here is that Destiny points out you're a hypocrite and it's pointed back to him, but so are you. So what have we gained here? Nothing. JJ Mad for $10 says the Pelosi husband situation was funny because Pelosi is for mental ill people running rampant in her city. Yeah, that's true. It was ironic.
I'm not going to get on my knees and beg for forgiveness or show sympathy to conservatives.
I'm not asking for that. I'm asking you to condemn what happened as an egregious attack on democracy. Can you do that?
No, I won't. No, I won't.
You can't do that. You see, so why the hell, frankly, Destiny,
absolutely not.
Why the hell should we listen to a word you have to say about...
Hold on. Why do you think conservatives haven't been listening to a word that liberals have said about anything for 8 years?
Right,
what do you think is going to change?
They?
You think if liberals come out now and they go, oh my God, this was so horrible, you think they're going to go, wow, that is true. Maybe that should also
Charlie, I'll bring you in at the end of this, I promise you, and you'll get a good chance to respond. But here's my problem, Destiny, with your whole position on this, right? Is that you don't actually have anything.
It's not actually a moral pissing contest. So think about how this argument has gone so far. The argument from both of them, we start with this premise that both of them do actually think that this is bad. Morgan thinks it's bad. The Coomer Gremlin thinks it's bad, right? The Coomer Gremlin's not willing to say that it's inappropriate, but he's saying, okay, yes, it's bad. Technically, it's bad. And Morgan says, yeah, technically, it's bad as well, right? Both of them agree on this premise. What the argument is about is over which one is a hypocrite, which one is, even after the agreement to that premise, which one is being more hypocritical? Is it Morgan, who isn't holding conservatives to the same standard by Destiny's worldview? This is what his basic argument is, and so therefore he's a hypocrite. Or is it Destiny, who he himself thinks that this is not rhetoric which is good for anybody, but until Republicans back off, this is the environment they created, so what's good for the goose is good for the gander. This is kind of what the argument is being reduced to. Calvin says, I'm not going to get on my knees. Destiny's biggest lie of the debate. Yeah, no shit. No shade, definitely done that.
Inside you that you want the other side to have. You don't have any of the empathy. You don't have any sympathy. You don't care that someone tried to assassinate Donald Trump. You don't care that a young fireman with a family was killed in the process. You don't actually. You are not the person you want these other people to be. And all you do is play whataboutery with every question I give you.
Now, Morgan's right about that. All Destiny has done is play whataboutism. But Morgan should have called that out earlier in the conversation and said, okay, can you make your argument without pointing at some other group for why what they're doing is bad? Can we talk about why what you're doing is bad? And I don't think that Destiny would have a damn thing he could say at that point.
I'm just startled.
What about it? We're talking about Donald Trump. We're talking about the temperature of this country. But here's a question for the two panelists. What percentage of this event happening was due to Donald Trump's rhetoric? What do they think the answer to that question is?
What percentage could it be that the other side, as we've just heard from Dave Rubin, has spent 8 years calling Donald Trump the new Adolf Hitler, a person who was responsible for the murder of 12 million people, including 6 million Jewish people in a Holocaust? Last time I checked, Donald Trump hasn't murdered 12 million people. So much as you would like him to be the new Hitler, he's not. But again, to an impressionable young deranged mind who has easy access to guns, that can be easily interpreted as an existential threat, said President Biden. Somebody that needs to be put in the bullseye, said Biden.
Okay,
only last week. And guess what? Somebody then comes forward and tries to kill the existential threat.
Who was engaged in more divisive rhetoric over the 8 years? If you had to guess, if you had to assign a rough percentage,
again, you're playing whataboutery. Again, you're deflecting.
It's not whataboutery.
Just as Joe Biden did last night. Just as Joe Biden did with Lester Holt on NBC last night. Every time he was asked, "Have you done any soul searching about your own rhetoric, your own ill-advised?"
Yeah, somebody aptly points out in the chat that there is a second fallacy which is going on here, which is the tu quoque fallacy. Or the what about you, though, fallacy. What about you? How about you, though? Before you start pointing out X, Y, and Z, what about you? Again, fallacious form of argumentation. It's actually a fallacious form of thinking in general, right? There are proper ways to think. And if you're thinking in terms of of the fallacia, you're thinking improperly. JJ from IA says for $20, what the fuck? Left's been demonizing the right with dangerous rhetoric for decades. Yes, everybody knows that.
His use of language, he deflected it back to attacks on Trump, and you're doing exactly the same thing with Republicans.
And I will do the exact same thing.
You say Republicans
you want Biden
you say
to
that they
disavow
are
a
lacking in
bullseye comment when Donald Trump was saying Second Amendment people could maybe do something about Hillary Clinton. Like, no, it's absolutely deranged. The double standard that's being asked here is insane. And you heard both of them say it earlier. How much did Donald Trump's rhetoric contribute to the current environment? Oh, not much at all. Like, no, yeah, I'm not going to say anything to these people. Of course not.
You see, that's.
What about you, though? No one to you for $10 says, I don't find anything offensive. I just can't afford to even try to respect the kid again in any way. I tried. What is there to respect? What is there to respect? It's always been a belief structure of mine that respectable men focus primarily on two things, which is their family and their family. Those are the two. That's what I think is the ultimate form of status symbol and the ultimate form of respect between men. If you want to get the most amount of respect from other men, treat your family well. Have a good, well-adjusted family who obviously cares about you. You'll get more respect than if you're a billionaire. You'll get more respect than if you drive the Bugatti. You'll get more respect than any of them get. Those men, even those men, will have respect for you. They can't help it. It's written into us. It's even culturally written into us.
First off, politics is downstream from culture, right? And what has happened to our culture in the last 8 years? What has happened to our culture is that the mainstream media has lied about everything, always to the detriment of right-leaning people, whether it is the Russia hoax or COVID or Brett Kavanaugh's a serial rapist or the Covington kids are racist or Jesse Smollett was hoaxed, was lynched, or whether it was very fine people on both sides. Every single lie always goes against right-leaning people. So they are slightly annoyed and distrustful of people like you and other people in mainstream media who lie about literally everything.
Well, not only that, but they'll justify the use of any sort of coercion or violence by any means necessary if they think that that will push their political advocacy to the next level. They don't care. Why do you suddenly think that a bunch of nihilists are going to have any sort of actual epistemic grounding or something that they're appealing to beyond themselves for the purposes of power? They want the world rewritten in their image. They want everything to be